Marilyn Mosby takes the stand for the first time in her federal trial. We're live from the courthouse with her side of the story. House Democrats unveiled their plan to tackle juvenile crime.
It is clear that they've become the largest part of the crime perception challenge in Maryland.
Their proposed changes to the juvenile justice system to hold more young offenders accountable. Then a Baltimore native is in the process to buy the Orioles. A closer look at the nearly $2 billion deal and the familiar face sources say is also involved.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 4.
Breaking news as we come on the air in the Marilyn Mosby trial. The former city state's attorney took the stand today, testifying for the first time in her federal trials. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kai Jackson.
And I'm Mary Bubala. That testimony from Mosby may have put the future of this trial in question. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live from Greenbelt now after being in the courtroom all day long. Mackenzie, tell us what she said on the stand.
Yeah, so there's a lot really here to get to, Mary and Kai. I want to start with the fact that cross-examination just started moments before we came on the air. And that's really because there was a lengthy break in the case while the parties were debating the scope of the cross-examination. And that's because of what Marilyn Mosby said on the stand. It was her final words to the jury, where she said she wanted to testify in this case because she regretted not testifying in the previous trial, and she wanted the jury to hear her truth. And it was those words that really gave both parties pause as to what that meant the scope could be moving forward. After significant debate, now cross-examination is starting. But really going back to the beginning of her testimony, this really hinges on the premise of the defense's case, that this whole thing is about trust. Marilyn Mosby says she trusted the wrong people. She trusted her husband, ex-husband at this point, City Council President Nick Mosby, to take care of his financial problems and pay off the taxes that he owed. She also said she trusted her financial advisors and mortgage brokers to make sure that she was following the letter of the law when she bought those two properties in Florida. Now, she testified on the stand today that she thought that Nick Mosby had taken care of the back taxes, including the lien. She said she did first learn about it in October of 2020 when a reporter texted her about it asking what was going on. Fast forward a few months, she said she believed Nick Mosby had it taken care of based on the comments that he gave during a news conference to the public saying that it had been resolved. But now we know, given his previous testimony, those comments were a lie. Now, there was a lot of conversations about the couple's finances, but really this does come down to the fact that she says she trusted him, and that's why we're here.
And Mackenzie, was she asked about the gift letter that Nick Mosby signed saying he would give her the $5,000 needed to close on that Longboat Key condo?
Yeah, absolutely. The gift letter, we have a copy of it now. It says that Nick Mosby said he would give her the $5,000. But what we learned is that Nick Mosby offered that she needed the $5,000 because Marilyn Mosby says that her broker miscalculated. In fact, that she needed more money, so Nick offered. But Marilyn Mosby says that she did not believe Nick would have the necessary funds in his account to cover that transaction. So she says she wired that money to him to make sure. Now, a little bit of back and forth. She says that that money was originally in a joint account that she held with her daughter, simply because she did not want automatic payments tied to her other accounts to take that money.
And Mackenzie, in addition to prosecutors saying she lied about the tax lien and some money, they also allege that she lied about using the property as a rental or second home. Were those conversations? What happened with that?
Yeah, Kai, if you remember that prosecutors say that she lied, saying that she would not use these properties as a rental investment or a property as a second home, but she says that her broker told her she could. Again, this is where it comes back to trust. She says that she trusted these professionals to guide her in the right direction. Now, when she did close on the Kissimmee property, she admitted to signing a large batch of documents, and she admitted that she did not read all of them. And included in that batch of documents was the second home rider indicating that there would be no rentals. But if you remember, before she even closed on the Kissimmee property, she signed a rental agreement with the property management company to handle those rentals. Now, we expect more cross-examination to continue, so I'm going to head back inside and I'll give you more updates at 5.
All right, Mackenzie, thank you. That's Mackenzie Frost reporting live from Greenbelt in Prince George's County. Fox 45 News has been following the Mosby case every step of the way. For our full reporting and the latest on the trial, head to foxbaltimore.com. Maryland Democrats are providing their solutions to the state's ongoing juvenile crime crisis. The new legislative priorities, a response from criticism from victims, police, and prosecutors. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor tells us what's in the plan and the response from Republican lawmakers. Rebecca.
Kai, accountability was the word of the day today. Democrats saying that there needs to be more of it for both young offenders and the state's juvenile justice system, a message that Republican lawmakers are in a rare agreement with.
We've been clear that any juvenile justice bill that comes to my desk must emphasize accountability. All right.
Maryland State Capitol building, a packed house Wednesday as Governor Westmore shoulder to shoulder with dozens of Democratic lawmakers announcing a packed list of legislative priorities aimed at combating skyrocketing juvenile crime across the state.
We need to make sure that actions have consequences, yes. And we need to make sure that our kids are getting the rehabilitation that they need.
We must hold our state and our local agencies accountable for improving the juvenile justice system.
Major changes being introduced in the comprehensive plan requiring police to provide written documentation of youth taken into custody, shortening the deadline for DJS intake decisions, strengthening staffing within DJS's ankle monitoring unit, increasing probation limits for youth offenders, and allowing youth under the age of 13 to be charged with certain violent crimes currently blocked under controversial reform laws.
And we're focusing on making sure that the system actually works to improve public safety and improve rehabilitation.
If passed, crimes children under 13 could once again be charged with, including firearm-related offenses, car thefts, sexual offenses, and animal abuse.
These crimes seem to be consistently the issues again from police officers, from hearing from them.
And probation limits would be extended from 6 months for a misdemeanor and 2 years for a felony to 18 months and 4 years respectively.
What's happening is that when someone is placed on probation, the access to services isn't happening quick enough. And so the length of probation could be halfway over or the majority over before they even get enrolled into services.
Overall, Republican lawmakers applauding the calls for accountability and clearer consequences.
I was encouraged by the tone of the rhetoric that we heard today, and we also appreciate that they recognize the system is broken.
Minority Whip Senator Justin Reddy only pointing to one missing priority, legislation that would repeal the current Juvenile Interrogation Act, which mandates an attorney be present before juveniles can be questioned by police.
They have this bizarre view that we shouldn't have parents and children be able to work together to answer questions about crimes. We need to change that law. A change many state and local law enforcement leaders have been pushing for.
It stops that juvenile from getting the services they need because you don't know what problem they actually have if you can't talk to them.
It has become more difficult for police to question young people about anything.
As Democrats double down, calling the law misunderstood.
The police officers' hands are not tied. We've also built in a public safety exception, so there's a wide berth of latitude for them to effectuate investigations. So as long as it's not an interrogation, they have the tools available.
Now, again, overall, Republicans say that this is a plan that they are very much on board with. However, they also fear that as this bill makes its way through the legislative process, that some of those tough on crime measures that are currently being proposed may change in this bill. Only time will tell. Reporting from Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. Well, we are also hearing reaction from leaders in the state's justice system. The Maryland Office of the Public Defender is highly critical of the new crime plan. Public Defender Natasha Dartigue says it's a return to policies that hurt children and fail to solve crime issues in Maryland.
Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is applauding the bill. Bates says this new legislation is crafted from firsthand experience dealing with juveniles. He believes the policies will make significant improvements in the rehabilitation of youth criminals while making communities safer.
That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think the legislative priorities unveiled today will make a difference in juvenile crime in Maryland? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote. Tonight, questions for the Department of Juvenile Services after a Project Baltimore investigation finds a 15-year-old convicted rapist attending a Maryland public school. DJS recommended probation and counseling for the teen who entered a plea to second-degree rape and was allowed to return to class at Patterson High School. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps tried to speak with the head of DJS, Vincent Schiraldi, at a recent event.
Sir, can you just give me one, if you give me a minute. What do you say to parents who had students that were in class with a convicted sex offender and they didn't know?
So I think that you should get the response for us in the proper way and not do paparazzi stuff right outside of
paparazzi. I'm at a public event, sir.
Tonight on Fox 45 News at 10, we'll have more on this story as Project Baltimore presses the head of DJS for answers about this case. And we'll show you the video from his past where Vincent Schiraldi made strong comments on abolishing sex offender registries.
And something had caught fire either up on the fly bridge or the main deck. And it just got worse and worse. And the boat next to it was shrink wrapped, and then that one caught on fire.
Incredible video as fire destroys multiple vessels docked at the Anchorage Marina in Canton. Responding fire crews found several boats on fire this morning. Now, we've also learned there was a possible explosion from a propane tank on board one of the boats. Our crews caught one of the boats sinking on camera. Crews are now working to contain the fuel that leaked from the vessels. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
This is a live look at Camden Yards right now, where we're learning more about that $1.7 billion deal to sell the O's.
Let's go right to Sports Unlimited's Morgan Atzit with the latest. Morgan, what are we learning this afternoon?
Hey guys, yeah, last night we found out a deal came through, and John Angelos has agreed to sell the Orioles to a private equity firm with multiple names attached, including Baltimore native and billionaire David Rubenstein. Moments ago, the Orioles just confirmed this. In December, Rubenstein's name floated around to purchase the Orioles if they were for sale. Puck News was the first to report the story last night. Cal Ripken Jr., NBA legend Grant Hill are names in the investment group making this purchase as well. The deal values the team at $1.725 billion. Peter Angelos purchased the Orioles back in 1993 for $173 million. This new ownership group would reportedly only take over 40% and will buy the rest following the death of Peter Angelos. Rubenstein has been linked to wanting to purchase a Major League Team baseball before in Washington, but a Nationals deal never happened. Once official, as far as Major League Baseball doing this, Rubenstein will be the control person of the Orioles. And again, it has to be approved by Major League Baseball and its owners. The owners have a meeting next week, but it is not expected to happen that quickly on the vote. Kai?
Morgan, thank you. So, Morgan, let's take a look at some of the fan reaction coming in right now. I know you're seeing a lot of it always because you're checking it out. Birdland, your time is now. We shall see. Those did really good last year. How about this one? I've never been so excited for an Orioles baseball season. Real excitement there. Someone not happy. Poor Orioles fans. The new owners will be even worse. That is yet to be seen, fans. Here, no, this doesn't take away from the sting of the Ravens loss, but I sure have heard a lot of excited Orioles fans this evening. And last one, this is from Maryland State Comptroller Brooke Learman. Only 58 days until opening day. Welcome to the new ownership team. As you know, we have the best fans in baseball. Hashtag Birdland at Orioles.
Fans are generally excited about news of the sale agreement. State leaders feel a bit differently. During today's State Board of Public Works meeting, Governor Wes Moore says while he is excited for the new owners, he is disappointed in the lack of transparency from John Angelos, but says the lease agreement he came to last month will not change under this new ownership. During that same meeting, the state treasurer said he felt lied to. The treasurer referencing reports from the time the lease deal was made, saying Angelos' family had told the governor they did not intend to sell the team. Now, this, of course, a developing story. We'll keep you updated both on air and online. And we have some breaking Ravens news tonight. ESPN reports defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald is leaving the team to be the new head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Macdonald started with the Ravens as a coaching intern back in 2014. Over the next 6 years, he worked his way up the ranks, becoming a defensive assistant, defensive backs coach, and linebackers coach. In 2020, he became the defensive coordinator for the Michigan Wolverines under John Harbaugh's brother, Jim. And just a year later, he returned to Baltimore as the Ravens defensive coordinator and turned the Ravens into one of the best defenses in the league. At 36 years old, Mike Macdonald will be the youngest head coach in the NFL.
A push in Annapolis to provide fairness in girls' sports. What new legislation is laying out?
And how will the president respond? Fox 45 News talking with a military expert about what the U.S. may do after 3 soldiers were killed in Jordan.
We have a bit of a chilly evening underway. Some clouds hanging around. They're not really going to go anywhere tonight. Some patchy fog possible as we drop into the 30s. But big changes are coming, starting with a cold front to the north. Temperatures get knocked back and an even bigger system possible as we head into the next 10 to 12 days. We're going to track it for you coming up.
New numbers show Congressman David Trone is expanding his lead over Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks in the race to be Maryland's next senator. According to a recent poll commissioned by Trone, he holds a 13-point lead over Alsobrooks among voters who say they are certain they will cast a ballot in the Democratic primary. Among those likely to vote, he holds an 11-point lead. Last week, in an interview with Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost, she pressed Trone on claims that he's trying to buy the election by financing his own campaign as opposed to taking money from PACs. This is what he had to say.
The middle ground is we need a public financing option for sure. I totally support that. But it's the dark money that you don't know where the money came from. What's that person's agenda? And that's what's in all that PAC money. When I spend $1, it's a dollar that's not going to go to my kids. It's going to tell people about what I'm running for, why I'm running, the issues.
Well, Fox 45 News is your home for complete coverage of the 2024 election. Stay with us on air and at foxbaltimore.com as we continue to follow the most important races here in Maryland and at the national level. Gloomy day out there again, but we have something to brighten your day.
Mary, we do indeed. Today we're welcoming our new chief meteorologist, Gerard Jabali, to Fox 45 News.
Welcome.
Do we have an applause track or anything?
Some music or something. Now bring us some sunshine. Can you do that?
Where's home for you?
There it is. Good punch. Whoever did that, I like you already.
Where's home for you, Gerard?
Home for me is a little town called Florence, South Carolina. It's
Yes.
not too far. A few people have heard of it.
I went to college in South Carolina. I'm familiar with Florence.
Yeah,
yes.
okay. So
nice town.
But you know, I spent so much time on the coast. Every weekend was either Georgetown, Myrtle Beach. So I love the water. This is really a flavor I enjoy.
Good. We've got lots of that here.
Great place, right?
Yeah, yeah. So digging the seafood. I'm back in town with it again. Yes.
Some crabs.
Thank you. I know it is a staple of Baltimore, and I'm going to be so thrilled to eat that every other day if I can manage here. Here's how things are looking outside. Kind of gloomy, kind of chilly. You know, we are going to get to the sunshine. I promise you, Mary. She wanted it, so I'm going to bring it that way. I will take, as your weatherman, I will be taking all the credit I can, but none of the blame as much as possible, at least. Going into tonight, it's going to be chilling down. We're at 43 degrees right now. Northwest wind around 6 miles per hour. That wind is making it, again, a little bit on the chilly side. There's 40s in and around all of Maryland here. Some 30s will start creeping in, especially in the upper altitudes. Now, the winds are starting to change a little direction here. That's good. We need that because we've had the coastal flood advisories in effect, and still Anne Arundel County is going to see that coastal flood advisory until around midnight tonight. Again, we're talking about very moderate coastal flooding just with the winds that have been kicking the water ashore a little bit more. All right, so tonight, dropping down on 34 degrees, some patchy fog possible. It's not going to be that really dense stuff that we had about a week ago, but the clouds are still lingering around. On the satellite and radar picture, that storm system's headed off. But look at what's coming. We've got another cold front that's going to start diving down. Come Friday, we're going to start to see things changing. Could see a couple of showers pop up with it, but definitely colder temperatures. This isn't going to be a huge blast, but enough you'll definitely feel a difference here. But it will clear out the clouds for us, and we'll have a mostly dry and sunny weekend. This storm system should stay out of our way as we head into Monday, so we're not going to get any moisture from that one. However, the pattern's starting to shift a little bit here. So what we're going to be seeing is another bigger storm system possible as we head much later down the road. We're talking about another Monday ahead. So as we get closer to Valentine's Day, we could see this shift. This could bring us rain, some possible snowfall, but again, this is 12 days out, guys. Low confidence with what's going to happen here. So you got to stay tuned. We're going to keep eyes on what's going to happen here going into the next couple of weeks. But I think our temperatures are going to stay somewhat above average. That's the good news. So tonight, still dropping to near freezing. We're going to hit around 50 to 55 tomorrow. And going into the weekend, still not bad either. We get that blast of cooler air coming in as we move into Friday, but not too terrible at all. Cloud-wise, we're going to keep some of them around tonight. Again, through tomorrow, we should start to clear out a little bit as the day rolls on, and we'll be improving quite a bit once we get into the weekend with sunshine, milder temperatures. Again, that stray shower possible late. This is the pattern as we're going into the next few weeks, okay? As we move deeper into February, we may be actually above average. So things are actually looking somewhat better for us around here if you're looking to get rid of some of the colder air. All right, here we go, 7-day forecast. Groundhog Day, don't forget, it's one of our favorite days in the weather field here. That is on Friday morning. We're going to find out what that's going to be, but as you notice, temperatures upper 40s, low 50s, still above average, and not much rainfall except the chance on Friday.
Gerard, thank you. A new bill in Annapolis would prevent biological males from playing girls' sports in schools. We're hearing from both sides.
The biggest names in tech butting heads with members of Congress about who's ultimately responsible for keeping kids safe online. I'm Atrell Nashar in Capitol Hill with a look at that disconnect and what it means for kids.
When a Boeing plane lost a door in mid-flight several weeks ago, nobody questioned the decision to ground a fleet of over 700 planes. So why aren't we taking the same type of decisive action on the danger of these platforms?
You have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
A live look at Capitol Hill, where lawmakers from both sides of the aisle question social media CEOs today. The top issue, safety for children, as families of victims of online scams gather demanding justice for their children. Sinclair national correspondent Audra El-Nashar is in D.C. with the latest on this hearing.
From Silicon Valley to Capitol Hill,
Concerned about kids' safety.
the most powerful executives in tech appearing before the Senate Judiciary Committee for what one lawmaker described as a pummeling.
You have a product that's killing people.
The issue at hand? Child sexual exploitation online. CEOs of Discord, Snap, TikTok, X, and Meta defending their practices in a room full of concerned parents, many who've lost their kids to suicide. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg addressing them directly.
No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invest so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts.
Despite broad bipartisan support, Congress has failed to pass real reform, like eliminating platforms' protection from liability or requiring more in-app parental controls.
We can no longer trust big tech to do it on its own.
Now, it's not that these tech CEOs oppose regulation, period. They just have very different ideas than lawmakers about what that should look like. For example, Meta tells me they want to see legislation aimed at the App Store level so that app stores like Google's and Apple's would be legally required to have parental controls in place so that a parent could block their child from ever downloading Facebook or Instagram.
That really leaves parents with the same choice they have now, which is, do I let my kid use a platform that poses a lot of risks and a lot of potential harms, or do I stop them and isolate them from their peers?
Platforms like Snapchat, Facebook, and Instagram have implemented dozens of child safety features in recent years, but most on Capitol Hill aren't buying it. Do you think that they're genuinely interested in fixing the issue?
I think if they were genuinely interested, they wouldn't oppose everything we do.
A fundamental disconnect and lack of trust between Congress and big tech, stalling progress and leaving kids vulnerable every time they pick up their phones. On Capitol Hill, I'm Audra El-Nashar reporting.
And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think the federal government is doing enough to protect your child from social media? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com, click on that Pulse tab. In a session dominated by budget and crime bills, some lawmakers are proposing legislation on girls' sports. Why they say biological sex should decide who gets to play. The president wants to send a message without escalating the violence. A military expert weighs in on what type of response we could see for the deadly drone strike in Jordan.
I know there's nothing anybody can say or do to ease the pain. I've been there. And by the way, we're promoting her posthumously to sergeant.
Oh, wow. That is the best news I've heard today. Thank you so much.
Well, President Biden reaches out to the families of the soldiers killed in this weekend's drone attack on a U.S. military base in Jordan. What you just saw was his conversation with Oneida Oliver Sanders. Her daughter, Kennedy, was one of the soldiers killed in the attack.
46-year-old Sergeant William Rivers, 24-year-old Specialist Kennedy Sanders, who Kai was just mentioning, and 23-year-old Specialist Brianna Moffitt died in the attack. Dozens more were injured. Now, the attack was the first time U.S. troops were killed in the area since the start of the war in Gaza. U.S. officials believe the Iranian-backed militia groups are responsible, but Iran is denying involvement and says it does not want a war with America.
And let's take a live look right now at the White House. President Biden says he has decided how he wants to respond to the attack, but he hasn't announced those plans.
The president has repeatedly said he wants to avoid escalating the conflict in the Middle East. Iranian leaders say any military strikes from the U.S. will lead to more fighting.
Maryland congressional representative Andy Harris spoke with Fox 45 today about how the country may respond.
Look, I think clearly we don't want an escalation in the Middle East. It's a powder keg right now, but I think there has to be a response. Look, Iran is at the bottom of all of this, whether it's Hamas, whether it's the Houthis, they're at the bottom of it, and they should pay a price. And I think the price should be us cutting off their oil supplying to the rest of the world. If they can't sell oil to the rest of the world, they basically go bankrupt.
Well, we are joined now by Air Force General John Teichert. The general is running, of course, for U.S. Senate, but speaking with us today is a military expert. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us.
Mary, thanks for having me.
And General Teichert, what are the main options, as you see it, as someone who is in the Air Force and the military, for the president?
We need to do something that allows us to restore or regain deterrence. Deterrence is stopping those that would do you harm from doing those things you don't want them to do. And sadly, because we haven't been responding to over 170 attacks in the Middle East against American positions during the last 4 months, that it has allowed an escalation where Iran doesn't believe that they'll be held accountable. And we need to do something swift and strong to regain that deterrence.
You may disagree with this. Some experts have proposed using economic sanctions and other nonviolent avenues to punish Iran. It sounds like you don't think that's a viable option.
I think that there's a portfolio of options that we should consider, and that includes economic activity. But 3 Americans have been killed, and frankly, it was inevitable because we've been absorbing these attacks for the last 4 months and only responding with pinprick attacks. And it's time to attack something of relevance and significance to the Iranian military, likely in Syria, that will send them the message that America is back with strength, capability, will, and resolve that can restore deterrence.
General Teichert, as we talk about the Middle East, I'd like to talk to you about something the FBI mentions, which is pretty alarming, saying that the Chinese are clearly planning a major cyber attack against the United States. The FBI seems to think this is going to be devastating. Some are probably surprised that they're being so public about it. How concerned are you about this, and what in the world can average Americans do with a looming cyber attack from China, North Korea, or any other state?
So we don't know if those things are going to take place, but that the root cause of all of it is when America demonstrates weakness, that it entices our adversaries, whether those adversaries are China or North Korea or Iran or Russia or others. And in order for us to stop them from doing the things that we don't want them to do, we've got to demonstrate will, capability, strength, and resolve. And thus far, we haven't done so in the international environment in the last 3 years, and it's made the world a more dangerous place, especially for Americans.
Yeah, I think everybody feels very unsettled at this point. General Teichert, thank you again so much for joining us this afternoon with your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you both.
In Israel, hostage negotiations remain at a standstill. Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu continues to refuse requests from the U.S. and the international community to pull out of Gaza. Netanyahu says he will only pull back after Hamas is completely defeated and Hamas is destroyed. Meantime, parents of hostages are urging him to prioritize getting their loved ones home over everything else.
We have one goal. This is the clearest mission we have ever been on in our lives. And the goal is bring home our son and the other 135 hostages. And it's hard to know every day as we chip away at this, whether we're successful or not. but it feels like we're in this moment. Things are coalescing in the right direction, and we got to push ahead.
Over the weekend, President Netanyahu rejected a deal from Hamas that would see Hamas release around 100 of the remaining hostages in exchange for the withdrawal of Israeli forces and the release of Palestinian prisoners and the recognition of the terror group's governance over Gaza.
Fox 45 has been following the conflict in Gaza since the beginning. For our full coverage on the war and the concerns that conflict could spread throughout the Middle East, head to foxbaltimore.com. Continuing coverage right now, the 2024 legislative session. The conversation this year has been dominated by concerns over juvenile crime and the governor's budget plans. Now, Delegate Kathy Szeliga has introduced a new bill supporting women in sports. It's called the Fairness in Girls Sports Act. Szeliga says it will protect girls both on and off the field. But as Fox 45's Jessica Babb shows us, not everyone agrees. Jessica joins us live from Annapolis with both sides of the story. Jessica?
So House Bill 47 says both JV and varsity teams should be based off of a student's biological sex. And it also says a girls' sports team should just include girls and not students of the male sex.
I love playing basketball and like all sports for women.
For 7th grade basketball players Aaron and Reagan, they say they want to support girls' sports.
Just the fun of it. Playing with friends and having a good time.
That's why alongside their teammates, they're standing behind Delegate Kathy Szeliga, who says her bill will help them do that.
This bill is simple. House Bill 47. It's about fairness for girls, and it's about protecting our girls on the field and in the locker room.
House Bill 47 requires interscholastic and intramural JV and varsity teams designated based on their biological sex, meaning there would be a boys team, girls team, and a coeducational or mixed team.
This is science. It's biology. Boys are faster, stronger. And it's not just protecting girls' athletic opportunities, but protecting them from injuries.
While it's not clear how many students this will impact, it also says any governmental entities, athletic associations, or licensing and accrediting organizations can't accept a complaint or conduct an investigation or take action against a school with separate teams for women.
We don't allow athletes to identify into an age category based on feeling older or younger. Sex categories are the same. The only way sport can be fair for women is with a protected female category that excludes competitors with male advantage.
With coeducational teams mentioned in the bill, when asked what would happen if not enough students wanted to participate.
This bill doesn't talk about male, doesn't talk about co-ed. It simply says that JV and varsity girls sports are going to be for girls.
I think, when we're talking about this issue, we really want to see equity in sports, and that means participation along the identified genders.
But not everyone is on board with passing the bill.
Just like we have with race, we don't have black and white folks, we have a spectrum of race, so gender is also a spectrum.
And there are also many others who have concerns about this bill. The committee hearing is still happening. It's been going on for about 40 minutes right now. We're told about 31 people are testifying, lots of people on both sides of this issue. So some lawmakers already have asked questions about how this will relate to transgender students. But of course, we're going to head back in there and let you know what they have to say. Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
Jessica, thank you. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will also be in Annapolis following every step of this year's session over the next 2 months. Keep up with our coverage on air and online at foxbaltimore.com.
In Baltimore County, we are learning about more opposition to a bill that some claim will bring an influx of apartments and redevelopment to their communities. Backed by County Executive Johnny Olszewski, Bill 324 looks to rezone certain aging, underutilized, or abandoned malls and shopping centers to a mix of commercial and residential. Fox 45's Amy Simpson live with the very latest on this controversial bill. Amy?
Yeah, so Mary, this controversial zoning bill is still on the table, even as County Executive Johnny Olszewski just yesterday announced his plans to run for Congress. Today, a spokesperson for the county executive tells me Olszewski does remain, quote, laser focused on investing in and strengthening
Baltimore County. But Bill 324 calls for certain shopping centers to be rezoned to mixed use. Shopping centers like Security Square Mall here in the western part of Baltimore County or the Lutherville Station Shopping Center, paving the way for redevelopment and potential apartment housing. Olszewski says Baltimore County lags behind other jurisdictions with mixed-use zoning, but some here in Baltimore County claim their communities are already overcrowded, unable to accommodate potential expansion. District 7's county councilman among those in strong opposition of this proposal.
The bill would open up over 30 areas as identified in the master plan, which is not yet adopted, for high-density subsidized housing with complete disregard for the public's will and a disregard for the infrastructure and public safety agencies and our schools, which are already overburdened.
This bill proposal is scheduled for public discussion and, as you can imagine, debate coming up on February 13th. District 7 Councilman Todd Crandell there encouraging residents to speak up and share their position with their elected officials. Reporting live, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
All right, Amy, thank you. Still ahead, a group of truckers heading to Texas in hopes of grabbing President Biden's attention, their mission, and the concerns some activist groups have with their journey.
Janae Bowens here in Washington with a look at why some homeowners are paying more in heating costs this winter.
So far, the weather has been a little timid, a little tame. We're going to see some changes coming eventually. It's mostly quiet for now. We've got a weak cold front that's going to pass by, going to drop our temperatures a bit, and then a stormier pattern possible, setting up for mid-February. We're going to have a look long range coming up.
House Republicans voted early this morning to advance their impeachment articles against Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. While Republicans are celebrating that move, Democrats argue it's a distraction.
They've basically spent this Congress engaging in reckless political activity designed to distract from their failed agenda.
You know, we looked at the founding fathers here. They didn't have a lot of federal criminal statutes. Breach of the public trust is sufficient to impeach.
Republicans are arguing Mayorkas has committed high crimes and misdemeanors for his handling of the southern border. The full House could vote on the charges as soon as next week. A group called Take Our Border Back started their journey across the United States to show solidarity with Texas's efforts to secure the southern border. They're heading to Eagle Pass, where they will host a rally this weekend. Members of the convoy say they hope their journey will get the attention of President Biden. Their goal is to see more done about border security.
Abbott has shut it down in Texas, and the federal government wants to go cut it open and say, no, let them come back to the country. And everybody's going down there to say, no, enough is enough.
Now, in response to the convoy, the League of United Latin American Citizens has issued an alert claiming members of the convoy may become violent toward immigrant communities. Take Our Border Back supporters deny those claims. New numbers show the border crisis is hurting President Biden in the polls. According to a new Bloomberg poll, 6 in 10 swing state voters say Biden bears responsibility for a surge in illegal migrants. Now, he trails former President Trump in a hypothetical general election rematch in each of the 7 swing states. Biden lags Trump 42% to 48% in those states.
Good evening, Baltimore. This is the first time I've been able to address you here on Fox 45, or at least the first day, and I'm thrilled to be here. I'm your new chief meteorologist, Gerard Jabali, and I am excited to be talking about East Coast weather again. Came from South Carolina, so this isn't too unfamiliar for me, and I'm really enjoying everything that Baltimore has to offer so far, especially the food. You guys got it down. I got to agree with that. Let's talk about what we're in store for tonight. If you're headed out tonight, it's actually going to look better as we head into the weekend, especially with the clouds. Today, it's been pretty gloomy. It's going to see more of that as we move through the evening. We're in the 40s everywhere, and we're seeing more of that across the area. And, of course, with the water temperature around 41 degrees, that's pretty much where it gets stuck, with the bay controlling a lot of your coastal weather around here. Okay, so here's how things are looking. Coastal flood alerts, we do have that out until midnight down towards Anne Arundel County. That's, again, until midnight. We're talking about very mild to moderate coastal flooding at worst. So 34 degrees is where we're going to bottom out. Some patchy fog may build in, but it shouldn't be widespread, not like what we had a couple days to weeks ago. It's going to be a little bit easier to handle, but the clouds are going to be pretty stubborn until we get a little bit later into tomorrow. So that's what we're tracking. That one system that's offshore is going to continue to pull away, still bringing in some chillier air, but a reinforcing shot coming down as we head into Friday. This is going to bring us our next chance of any rainfall. Doesn't look widespread either, but a spotty shower or two at least possible as we move through Friday, and then the colder air is going to sit around for a little bit. Not so cold that we're going to be really frigid. This is just going to be a little bit below what we've been seeing, but at least we get the weekend where we're going to see the sunshine and some mild temperatures. This area of low pressure is not going to bring us any more rain, but we're going to be on this side of it, the northwest side. It's going to pull in more of that colder air, keeping us stuck with the cooler temperatures. We may not see any real shift in our temperatures until this guy gets here, and this could swing it either way. Kind of depends on the track, but this is still 12 days out. It could bring us rain, could bring us wind, possibly some snow, but we have low confidence on everything right now since it's so far out. Stay tuned. We'll see what the newer data has to say about it as we get further down the road. In the meantime, well, enjoy more of the chillier air. 30s tonight will break open around the freezing mark, maybe a degree or two above for most of us here, and then we'll get a little sunshine to work its way in too. Now, as we move into Friday, there's that front going by. It's going to bring us that chance for a shower. We're still stuck in the 40s again. So this is not going to be a big weather maker, and we're not going to see a whole lot of big weather makers until we get later, more than 7 days out. Remember, Groundhog Day is on Friday. We'll see what Punxsutawney Phil has to say about the next 6 weeks of our weather. I've gotten my forecast. I'll make sure everyone knows what that is. But hey, 50s as we move into Sunday with actually sunshine. So that's lining up pretty nicely for the weekend. We're back to seeing a little more cloud cover, though, as we head into early next week. We'll talk about what's coming later down the road as we get in the next couple weeks, too.
Gerard, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock, the owner of the Orioles agrees to sell the team to a private equity group. We take a closer look at the first statement from the team's potential future owner. Homeowners across the country are tightening their budgets this winter to pay for higher utility bills. National correspondent Janae Bowens explains the concerns and what you can do to save.
Some homeowners across the country have got the power, meaning higher power bills because of cold temperatures.
It was $256 for this last month, and that's just heat. This month, our electric bill was closer to $180.
Jennifer Stevenson of Northern New York has been budgeting extra for her utility bills, and she's not alone. According to a survey from Payless Power, over 1 in 4 customers who moved in the past year had to cut back on their spending because of expensive power bills.
So maybe they're not going to eat out as often, or they're going to cut back on the luxuries like having a trip to the mall or a vacation.
According to the National Energy Assistance Directors Association, electric heating is estimated to be 1.2% higher this winter than last winter. Propane heating up by 4.2%, heating oil nearly up by 9%. The only silver lining, natural gas heating to be down by nearly 8%.
We all get wrapped up in the prettiness of the house, the extra things, the patio.
Now, Jennifer is also a regional vice president of the National Association of Realtors. She says home buyers must consider potential utility costs when choosing a new home.
You really need to talk about the structure of the house and the mechanicals of the house. That really is going to impact you the most.
There are things you can do to cut down those heating costs. Try to keep the temperature between 68 to 70 degrees when you're awake and even lower when you're sleeping. And use energy-efficient alternatives like LED lights. In Washington, Janae Bowens.
Okay, everybody's looking and working for the weekend. We are going to be seeing some better weather as we head in. It's going to be a little chilly, and we're going to see a chance for a shower possible as we move through Friday. But as you get into the meat of your weekend, Saturday, Sunday looking better, lots of sunshine. So even though it's 48 degrees, it feels so much better when you have a little bit of sun to come out. And still pretty mild on Sunday. Next week, things start to kind of shift back the other way. It gets a little bit colder, and we're going to be talking about another bigger storm system. We're going to go over that in the next hour.
The road to the big game is sponsored by Royal Farms.
And as we get closer to the big game in Las Vegas, companies are starting to tease their advertisements. Oreo is putting together a commercial for the first time since 2013, asking fans to make decisions by twisting their cookies. And the fan favorite Budweiser Clydesdales are making a return. Some 50-plus advertisers are vying for the attention of more than 100 million people come next month. A 30-second spot will reportedly cost $7 million. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5 o'clock tonight, troubling new information about the leader of DJS's past. What we're learning about Vincent Schiraldi's controversial time in D.C. And former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby takes a stand in her federal trial, the latest coming out of court. Maryland Democrats unveiled their priorities to address the juvenile crime crisis in Maryland, the proposed changes, and how Republicans are responding.
Former Baltimore City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby being cross-examined in her federal trial. We wrap up the day's events from court live.
An agreement to sell the Baltimore Orioles receiving mixed reaction today. What we know.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 5.
We've been clear that any juvenile justice bill that comes to my desk must emphasize accountability.
Today, Maryland Democrats providing their solutions to the state's ongoing juvenile crime crisis. Thank you for staying with us. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. The new legislative priorities, a clear response to widespread outcry from victims, police, and prosecutors.
Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor details what is in this plan and the response from Republican lawmakers. She joins us live now with the very latest. Rebecca?
Mary and Kai, accountability was the word of the day today. Democrats saying that there needs to be more of it for both young offenders and the state juvenile justice system as a whole, a message that Republican lawmakers are in a rare agreement with. In fact, many of the major changes being introduced in the plan are measures Republicans have been continuously calling for. Those changes include requiring police to provide written documentation of youth taken into custody, shortening the deadline for DJS intake decisions, strengthening staffing within DJS's ankle monitoring unit, increasing probation limits for young offenders, and allowing children under the age of 13 to be charged with certain violent crimes currently blocked under controversial reform laws. Among those crimes are all firearm-related offenses, car thefts, sexual assaults, and animal abuse.
That these crimes seem to be consistently the issues again from police officers, from hearing from them. We're focusing on making sure that the system actually works to improve public safety and improve rehabilitation.
We need to make sure that actions have consequences, yes. And we need to make sure that our kids are getting the rehabilitation that they need.
Again, Republicans saying overall this is a plan they can get behind. Senate Minority Whip Justin Reddy only voicing frustration over one missing priority, legislation that would repeal the current Child Protection Interrogation Act, which mandates an attorney be present before juveniles can be questioned by police.
I understand wanting to have adult present, but this idea that we have to bend over backwards is not correct. And it may be confusing, but it's also an unnecessary law that we should repeal.
It's change many law enforcement officials have also been pushing for, claiming that the current law is hindering their investigations. But today, Democrats doubling down, saying that police simply don't understand the law, which is why requiring police to receive additional education on the Interrogation Act is also going to be a requirement in this bill.
And Rebecca, the state's top attorneys are also weighing in on some of these changes. What do our legal system leaders have to say about it tonight?
Well, Mary, as you can imagine, we are getting polarizing reactions from the public defender's office and some of our top prosecutors across the state. Today, the Maryland Public Defender's Office denouncing the changes in a statement, reading in part, quote, "In less than a year and a half into the Juvenile Justice Reform Act's enactment, it is alarming that leadership seeks to return to Maryland policies that failed for decades and theories which are disproved." Meanwhile, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates is applauding the bill and even taking credit for some of the ideas being proposed. Bates sending a statement that reads in part, quote, "The collaboration between my office and Maryland's leadership has ensured the proposed legislation is crafted from firsthand experience with the criminal justice system and addresses what is needed for accountability, rehabilitation, and collaboration to be possible." Reporting live in Annapolis, Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Rebecca, thank you. That brings us to our question of the day. Do you think the legislative priorities unveiled today will make a difference in juvenile crime in Maryland? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com/vote.
Former City State's Attorney Marilyn Mosby takes a stand today, testifying for the first time in her federal trials.
And that testimony from Mosby may have put the future of this trial in question.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost joins us live from Greenbelt after being in court all day. Mackenzie?
Yeah, Mary Kai, it was a tense day of testimony for Marilyn Mosby. She opted to take the stand in her own defense, spending about 2 hours on the stand earlier this morning. And then we got to cross-examination just before 4 o'clock this afternoon. There was a significant delay in between the direct questioning and cross-examination because of the final words from Marilyn Mosby before cross-examination started. She was asked if she had been convicted of perjury. She said yes. And she was asked why she decided to take the stand. She said she regretted not testifying in that perjury trial and she wanted the jury to hear her truth. Now, it was those final words that really caused both parties to really question the scope of the cross-examination, but after a significant delay, and then the two parties came together and they agreed to move forward. Under oath and on the stand today during cross-examination, prosecutors asked Marilyn Mosby about the mortgage applications that she signed before she bought those 2 Florida vacation homes. And under oath, she said that she did know about the tax liability in 2020, but she also said that she did not believe that that was what the question on the mortgage application was specifically asking about. Now, this entire defense has been really based on trust. Marilyn Mosby and her defense team have told the jury that Marilyn believed her ex-husband and trusted him when he was talking about his previous tax liabilities and financial problems, and that she also trusted her mortgage broker to guide her in the right direction. Today on the stand, Marilyn Mosby told the jury that she believed Nick Mosby had taken care of the tax lien that had been on their property. She said she overheard a conversation he had with the Harbor Bank discussing the possibility of taking out a loan to pay off that tax lien, but now we know that Nick Mosby did not take out that loan because the interest rate was too high. Marilyn also says, based on Nick's comments during a news conference where he was asked about the tax lien and he publicly told the people of Baltimore that it had been paid off, she believed him. But now we know that under oath, Nick said that he lied to the people of Baltimore and the media about that tax lien because he said he did not want Marilyn to find out. This cross-examination is expected to continue tomorrow.
And Mackenzie, was she asked about that gift letter that Nick Mosby had signed at one point saying he would give her the $5,000 needed to close on the Longboat Key condo? What did she have to say about that?
Yeah, if you remember that she did not have enough money to close on that condo at the time to secure a various interest rate. But now she says that it was her broker who miscalculated, and that's why she was $5,000 short. So Nick Mosby overheard that and offered to gift her the money. But today, Marilyn says that she did not believe that Nick would have the necessary funds in his account to make that gift. So that's why she claims that she wired him the money to ensure that there was enough in that account. And if you remember, we've seen the flow charts provided by the government during their case detailing how the money was wired from Marilyn to Nick. Nick then shuffled it around and wired it back to her. But now Marilyn Mosby is telling the jury her side of the story and making it clear that she does not want to be in the same situation that she was in during the perjury trial where she did not testify. Again, this court will resume tomorrow morning at 9:30, and we expect to hear even more conversations surrounding the cross-examination. And the defense also says they may even call one more witness. It's possible the jury will get this case tomorrow, but depending on the timing of things and given all of the breaks and sidebars conversations, we could be back here on Monday. We're live in Greenbelt. Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Thank you. Fox 45 has been following the Mosby case every step of the way. For our full reporting and the latest on the trial, head to foxbaltimore.com. Well, this got the attention of all of Baltimore today. A fire destroys multiple boats docked at the Anchorage Marina in Canton. Responding fire crews found several boats on fire this morning. There was a possible explosion from a propane tank on board one of those boats. And our crews caught one of the boats sinking on camera. Crews are now working to contain the fuel that leaked from those vessels. The good news, no one was hurt in all of that.
This morning, I'm just extremely grateful that while we do have the damage to the property, that no one was injured. Very grateful to our women and men in the fire department for getting here so quickly and doing what they always do to try to save lives and save property.
The cause of the fire is currently under investigation.
A controversial zoning bill is still on the table in Baltimore County, despite Baltimore County Executive John Olszewski's plans to run for Congress. Olszewski's mixed-use development bill looks to rezone certain aging, underutilized, or even abandoned malls and shopping centers in the county to a mix of commercial and residential use. Well, Fox 45's Amy Simpson is live right now in Baltimore County as some worry about an influx of apartments. Amy?
Yes, okay, there are a lot of feelings about this one, and some, I'm told, are so opposed to this measure that one county councilman tells me he's received hundreds of emails already from people who live outside of his district.
From Security Square Mall to Lutherville Station Shopping Center, Baltimore County is bracing for a debate over what's next for certain abandoned or dilapidated commercial hubs. County Executive Johnny Olszewski backing Bill 324, calling for certain shopping centers to be rezoned to mixed use, paving the way for future redevelopment, saying it's aligned with the 2030 master plan and would still allow community input.
Baltimore County actually lags behind other jurisdictions in terms of having mixed-use zoning where we can have housing next to commercial activities.
That was Olszewski speaking about the proposal a week before he announced plans to run for Congress. And now, though his future as chief executive of Baltimore County is not set in stone, Fox 45 News has learned the bill is still on the table. A spokesperson for the county executive saying today, as we always have, our administration remains laser focused on our work, making historic investments in our communities, providing more open and accessible government, and strengthening the quality of life for residents in every community across Baltimore County.
It is a blatant attempt to strip the Baltimore County Council of their land use authority, and it severely limits the public's opportunity to weigh in on major land use decisions.
District 7 Councilman Todd Crandell represents Eastern Baltimore County, among those in staunch opposition to Bill 324.
The bill would open up over 30 areas, as identified in the master plan, which is not yet adopted, for high-density subsidized housing with complete disregard for the public's will and a disregard for the infrastructure and public safety agencies and our schools, which are already overburdened.
Some in the Lutherville-Timonium area particularly outspoken against this bill, sharing concerns about plans to redevelop the Lutherville Station Shopping Center, potentially bringing hundreds of apartments to the site, even as some claim the area can't handle the influx of people.
The traffic, the school system, the infrastructure.
District 3 Councilman Wade Catch, who represents the Lutherville-Timonium area, did not respond to Fox 45 News today, but in an email to constituents said he opposes the bill, also claiming county council would be bypassed in the development process. It is shocking and very disturbing, he wrote. Meanwhile, Councilman Crandell urges residents to speak up.
It's a crucial time considering the consequences of the bill and the master plan itself.
And this zoning bill is scheduled for public discussion and debate coming up on February 13th, also scheduled for a final reading and a vote the week after that. Reporting live tonight, Amy Simpson, Fox 45 News.
Amy, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 5, a new bill in Annapolis would prevent biological males from playing girls' sports in schools. We're hearing from both sides.
A deal has been confirmed by John Angelos and the Orioles agreeing to sell to a private equity firm. That is next on Sports Unlimited.
As we head into tonight, it's going to be a lot of cloud cover once again. Chilling down, we'll hit the 30s, but I am tracking some warmer weather to come our way as we head into the weekend. A bigger storm system to eventually head our way, too, as we head in the next couple weeks. Well, we're going to take you through it all.
Taking a live look at Camden Yards tonight, where change is in the air. Orioles owner John Angelos has agreed to sell his stake in the team. His family has owned the Orioles for nearly 3 decades. Let's go to Morgan Atzett with the latest on the group the team is being sold to. Morgan has all the details for us. Morgan?
Yeah, Mary, the Orioles and Angelos family have confirmed John Angelos agreed to sell the Orioles to a private equity firm with multiple names attached, including Baltimore native and billionaire David Rubenstein, billionaire Mike Bloomberg, and Hall of Fame Ironman Cal Ripken Jr. and NBA legend Grant Hill. John Angelos is giving up control stake to Rubenstein, so he'll be in charge, but will still serve as a senior advisor to the franchise. The deal, $1.725 billion. Peter Angelos purchased the Orioles in 1993 for $173 million. Rubenstein has been linked to wanting to purchase a Major League Baseball team before with Washington, but a Nationals deal never happened. David Rubenstein released a statement and it reads in part, "Our collective goal will be to bring a World Series trophy back to the city of Baltimore. To the fans, I say we do it for you and can't do it without you." And Cal Ripken Jr. on his social media page is thanking Rubenstein for having him in the ownership group and wrote, "The Orioles have been a part of my life since I was a child, and this is a special day. I look forward to the opportunity and will do whatever I can to help the organization." The deal has to be approved by Major League Baseball. Owners have meetings next week, but it is not expected to happen that quickly to go to vote.
Morgan, thank you. Well, today, Fox 45 headed down to Camden Yards to see how fans are reacting to the big news. Some telling us they hope the new ownership means a successful season for the O's.
Hey, I'm proud of what they've done. I love it. I love the way that they building. They got a new team, right? It look like they might even go farther next year. So just anticipating on them having a winning season next year.
It's exciting to have new ownership that's coming in that hopefully will have a fresh approach to the team, and hopefully the Orioles can continue on their hot streak that they had this year.
Fans also telling us they're excited to see what kind of investment the new ownership will make in the team in Camden Yards and really downtown Baltimore. And while fans seem generally excited, some state leaders are feeling a little differently. During today's State Board of Public Works meeting, Governor Wes Moore says while he is excited for the new owners, he is disappointed in the lack of transparency, but adds the lease agreement from last month that he negotiated with John Angelos will not change under this new ownership. And during that same meeting, the state treasurer said he felt lied to. The treasurer referencing reports from when the lease deal was made, saying the Angelos family told the governor they did not intend to sell. This, of course, a developing story. Fox 45 will continue to track the sale both on air and online at foxbaltimore.com. And lots of fun baseball in the future of our new chief meteorologist. We are welcoming Gerard Jabali today to our set. Welcome.
Thank you.
Are you a baseball fan?
I loved going to the games. I lived in Chicago last, and
Cubbies.
Yes. Oh my gosh, what a treat it is to enjoy a game out there. It's not as easy to watch it on TV to me. I get a little sleepy.
Yes, but wait until you get yourself inside Camden Yards.
That's what I'm doing.
It's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Wrigley Field is great, but Camden Yards is special.
That's what I look forward to come springtime. I think I was doing the countdown. I think we're only about 56 days away.
Good.
If I have my math right, we'll see. But springtime is ready for me. I need it. I need it badly because, you know, after a while, when you've been in the cold and the clouds, and just those early sunsets, I'm ready to get to it. You know, tomorrow is the day before Groundhog Day. We're going to take a look at what Punxsutawney Phil may be talking about, and I'll give you my forecast too. So stay tuned. We've got a lot of weather coming your way eventually here. 43 degrees. We've got no wind reporting right now, and the moisture coming in off of the water here is not doing a whole lot to it, but we're keeping our temperatures right now in the 40s. I think we're going to see them dip a little bit more tonight. The wind is relaxing. However, throughout the day, we've seen it kind of pushing some of it ashore. So Anne Arundel County is getting some of that coastal flooding here. Very, very mild, not going to cause a whole lot of issues. You may just see it inundating those places that are pretty frequent. Best not to drive through the salt water. Tears up your car. Ask me how I know. 34 degrees is what we should bottom out tonight with more clouds. Some patchy fog will be around. And again, those winds should be fairly light as well. The clouds just not going anywhere until we get a little bit later on. We're talking about probably by midday tomorrow, we'll start to see some changes here. So this is that storm system that's offshore, not bringing us anything but the cloud cover and some chillier air. Another shot's likely going to come down with this front out of Canada as we move into Friday. With that, a chance for a few showers possibly as we move through mainly the morning hours, but that's all we're going to really talk about for any precipitation for some time to come. This storm system, as we move through Monday, is going to skirt to the south and just soak the southeastern states. Our next shot at some real rainfall may not come until we get closer to mid-February. This is February 12th on the data here. Now, it's showing a pretty sizable system here. This one could actually bring everything from wind, rain, maybe some snowfall. We're going to keep close eyes on this, but take it with a grain of salt. It's only 12 days out, so we've got low confidence that this is going to happen as you see it here. Stay tuned. A lot of changes could happen, including track, strength, everything, but we're keeping an eye on a shift in our pattern. So in the meantime, get ready to see fairly quiet weather, but some improvements coming. We will get that shot of chillier air to come our way as we head into Friday. But as we move into the weekend, it's actually going to be pretty mild. This is that shower chance. We're talking early Friday morning, most likely here. And then it's just going to be kind of a chilly, cold north wind. And again, the weekend shaping up to be pretty good. In fact, days ahead, we're talking 8 to 14 days ahead. We're still looking like we're going to be well above the average here across much of the eastern United States. So there it is, your 7-day forecast. Groundhog Day on Friday. We'll see what Punxsutawney Phil has to say. But Saturday and Sunday, I'm saying sunshine. 48 to 53 degrees Saturday and Sunday. And then we kind of cloud things up a little bit next week.
Gerard, thanks. Still ahead, the Senate grilling big tech executives about the potential harm their platforms cause. Why one lawmaker says the CEOs have blood on their hands. And Fox 45 continues to investigate the head of DJS's controversial past. New details involving his time in D.C. that lawmakers are calling troubling. A packed hearing on Capitol Hill today where lawmakers accuse the CEOs of Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, and X of allowing a plague of online child sexual exploitation.
If you do not believe this is an idea whose time has come, take a look at the turnout here.
Mr. Zuckerberg, you and the companies before us, I know you don't mean it to be so, but you have blood on your hands. You have a product. You have a product that's killing people.
Lawmakers in both parties want to figure out how to pass legislation that would force social media executives to do more to protect children on their platforms when it comes to sexual abuse material and mental health. They want to make it easier for parents to sue tech companies, but that would require an overhaul of Section 230, which was intended to protect free speech. The CEOs say they are open to regulations and are working with law enforcement.
At the end of the day, we want everyone who uses our services to have safe and positive experiences.
Well, despite the bipartisan nature of the effort and several bipartisan bills being put forward, the House is struggling to pass any legislation. Now, a powerful moment during the tense Senate hearing, Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, which owns Instagram and Facebook, stood up and apologized to the families of the victims.
I'm sorry for everything that you have all gone through. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered.
The hearing room packed full of parents holding up photos of their children, some who have taken their own lives as a result of social media posts, and others who have been sexually abused through social media channels or both. They were active during the hearing, booing Zuckerberg as he defended his platforms and the company's efforts to safeguard children. And that brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think the federal government is doing enough to protect children from social media? To make your voice heard, head to foxbaltimore.com, click on the Pulse tab. Coming up, President Biden's decision on how to respond to drone attacks in Jordan remain behind closed doors. The actions one lawmaker in Maryland says the president needs to take.
Growing challenges from the influx of migrants in our country. I'm Christine Frizell with a look at a brand new poll that shows just how much this issue weighs on voters' minds.
Delegate Kathy Szeliga has introduced a new bill supporting women in sports. It is called the Fairness in Girls Sports Act.
Szeliga says it will protect girls both on and off the field. But as Fox 45's Jessica Babb shows us, not everyone agrees with that. Jessica joins us live from Annapolis. Jessica.
According to House Bill 47, it says for JV and varsity teams, it should be based on a student's biological sex. And it also says for girls' sports, there should be no students of the male sex.
I love playing basketball and like all sports for women.
For 7th grade basketball players, Aaron and Reagan, they say they want to support girls' sports.
Just the fun of it. Playing with friends and having a good time.
That's why alongside their teammates, they're standing behind Delegate Kathy Szeliga, who says her bill will help them do that.
This bill is simple. House Bill 47. It's about fairness for girls, and it's about protecting our girls on the field and in the locker room.
House Bill 47 requires interscholastic and intramural JV and varsity teams designated based on their biological sex, meaning there would be a boys team, girls team, and a coeducational or mixed team.
This is science. It's biology. Boys are faster, stronger. It's not just protecting girls' athletic opportunities, but protecting them from injuries.
While it's not clear how many students this will impact, it also says any governmental entities, athletic associations, or licensing and accrediting organizations can't accept a complaint or conduct an investigation or take action against a school with separate teams for women.
We don't allow athletes to identify into an age category based on feeling older or younger. Sex categories are the same. The only way sport can be fair for women is with a protected female category that excludes competitors with male advantage.
With coeducational teams mentioned in the bill, when asked what would happen if not enough students wanted to participate.
This bill doesn't talk about male, doesn't talk about co-ed. It simply says that JV and varsity girls sports are going to be for girls.
I think, when we're talking about this issue, we really want to see equity in sports, and that means participation along the identified genders.
But not everyone is on board with passing the bill.
Just like we have with race, we don't have black and white folks, we have a spectrum of race, so gender is also a spectrum.
The committee hearing for this bill is still happening, and right now numerous people are speaking out against the bill, voicing some of their concerns related to how this bill would be implemented if it was passed, and also concerns that it could exclude or single out trans students. Jessica Babb, Fox 45 News.
Jessica, thank you. Well, today Maryland Democrats unveiled their juvenile crime plan following months of calls for change from police, prosecutors, and victims across the state. Democrats say there needs to be more accountability for both youth offenders and the state's juvenile justice system. They announced a list of legislative priorities. Now, these include requiring police to provide written documentation of youth taken into custody, shortening the deadline for DJS intake decisions, also strengthening staffing within DJS's ankle monitoring unit, and also increasing probation limits for youth offenders, and also allowing children under the age of 13 to be charged with certain violent crimes currently blocked under controversial reform laws.
In addition to the state's juvenile crime concerns, Fox 45 News has reported on questions surrounding Juvenile Services Secretary Vincent Schiraldi and his Chief of Staff Mark Schindler. During Schindler's time in D.C., our investigation uncovered several reports showing more than a dozen juveniles under supervision were either arrested for murder or killed. Schindler was dismissed in D.C. but has since come to Maryland. Critics blame Schiraldi during his time as Corrections Commissioner in New York City. He oversaw Rikers Island Jail, and some city leaders say his leadership led to a lack of accountability. And now we are uncovering more details from Secretary Schiraldi's past. Fox 45's Jeff Abel has new information that some lawmakers call troubling.
In Annapolis today, some of those who make policy are questioning the policies of Vincent Schiraldi.
These type of serious, alarming situations that we're hearing about, they can't be overlooked.
Maryland's Juvenile Services Secretary, who has endorsed the abolishment of youth prisons, has been under the microscope lately as problems in his professional past have surfaced. When he was director of juvenile corrections in D.C. 15 years ago, he admitted to investigators that he instructed officers to drive 3 juvenile offenders out of this maximum security lockup in Laurel to his Washington home for an afternoon cookout. During that event, one of the juveniles escaped out of his basement door and wasn't recaptured for 22 days. And it appears it may not have been the only time offenders checked into the facility and checked out. A year before that cookout, the Washington Times reports about a lawsuit accusing a city official in Washington of checking a 16-year-old out of the same facility. According to the Times, the officials signed the boy out of the Oak Hill Youth Center and brought him to their home in Northwest Washington, where he spent the night. The lawsuit alleges improper activity later took place, but the lawsuit was eventually thrown out. Schiraldi was never accused of abusing offenders, but as director, his policies have come under fire.
I've got over almost 30 years in law enforcement, and the reality is juvenile crime and the way that we are failing to handle these at-risk children is disturbing and alarming.
After reviewing Schiraldi's past, Senator William Folden believes lawmakers should keep close watch on the troubled agency.
Doing better is no longer allowing Secretary Schiraldi to be in a position that there's a lack of accountability apparently amongst his own leadership and himself.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
And yesterday, Fox 45 News asked you if state lawmakers should hold a hearing to investigate DHS Secretary Vincent Schiraldi. 98% of those who voted said yes. Tonight, there are more questions for the Department of Juvenile Services after a Project Baltimore investigation finds a 15-year-old convicted rapist attending a Maryland public school.
DJS recommended probation and counseling for this teen who entered a plea to second-degree rape and was allowed to return to class at Patterson High School.
Project Baltimore's Chris Papps tried to speak with the secretary at a recent event.
Sir, can you just give me a minute? What do you say to parents who had students that were in class with a convicted sex offender and they didn't know?
So I think that you should get the response for us in the proper way and not do paparazzi stuff right outside of
paparazzi. I'm at a public event, sir.
Tonight at 10 o'clock, we'll have more on this story as Project Baltimore presses the head of DJS for answers about this case. We'll show you the video from the past where Mr. Schiraldi made strong comments about abolishing sex offender registries.
Fox 45 News is following 2 developing stories right now.
The calls to deal with the ongoing crisis at the southern border grow louder as the efforts to impeach DHS Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas continue.
Plus, we're still waiting to learn how the U.S. will respond to the Iran drone attack that killed 3 Americans. U.S. officials believe they now know who was responsible for Sunday's drone attack.
The attribution that our intelligence community is comfortable with is that this was done by the umbrella group called the Islamic Resistance in Iraq.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says the Islamic resistance in Iraq consists of multiple Iran-backed militias, including Kataib Hezbollah. U.S. intelligence believes the group planned, resourced, and facilitated the attack on the U.S. military base, which also injured at least 40 other people. Kirby says President Biden is still weighing how the U.S. should respond, but, quote, the first thing you see won't be the last thing. The comments reflect what's already been said by U.S. officials this week, that an attack will be multi-leveled and come in stages. Still, Biden says the U.S. doesn't want war with Iran. Maryland Congressman Andy Harris spoke on the matter today and how he thinks the U.S. should respond.
Look, I think clearly we don't want an escalation in the Middle East. It's a powder keg right now, but I think there has to be a response. Look, Iran is at the bottom of all of this, whether it's Hamas, whether it's the Houthis, they're at the bottom of it, and they should pay a price. And I think the price should be us cutting off their oil supplying to the rest of the world. If they can't sell oil to the rest of the world, they basically go bankrupt.
The other developing story that we're following, the crisis at the southern border. Tonight, another set of challenges stemming from the record number of migrants who have arrived at the southern border and have been allowed to remain in the country. National correspondent Christine Frizzell reports.
For months, big city leaders have been begging for assistance to control the crowds. Now they're asking for help to control the crime. Migrants being blamed for this assault on police officers in New York City and for forming pickpocketing teams in the West Village. and for violence inside migrant shelters.
Police say the two men got into a fight and one stabbed the other in the chest.
In Boston, a recreation center used for inner city kids and seniors now converted into a migrant shelter.
I definitely think that the community was not heard, or listened to.
The migrant crisis heating up the fight between the state of Texas and the federal government. Governor Greg Abbott revealing he's transported more than 102,000 migrants to sanctuary cities. Still, a minuscule fraction of the more than 2 million encountered at the southern border last year. The issue clearly spilling over onto the campaign trail. New numbers from a Bloomberg Morning Consult poll spelling it out. Those surveyed listing immigration as either somewhat or very important when deciding who to vote for, at 84%. And when asked how responsible Joe Biden is for the increase in migrants at the border, 61% said either somewhat or very responsible. House Republicans advancing an impeachment resolution against Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas.
I call him the architect of destruction and chaos.